Hey, hi.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Buenas tardes. Hola a todos. Hello.
I hope we will do that in English. Otherwise, I'm screwed.
Oh, too bad. I wanted to speak in Catalan.
Great. Yeah. Thank you for the audience which is still here. I'm really happy to have you all. We have for some reason, I think we have for some accidental reason, we have that spot. We could have got a better spot, but well, that went not too good.
So we're all passionate about meetups. We all have different approaches to meetups.
Absolutely.
I host a meetup in Miami, as I mentioned earlier. This Sunday will be 184, so 184 straight weeks of Bitcoin brunch. What do you guys do?
Well done.
Bravo. So I am one of the organizers of the Barcelona Bitcoin-only community. We organize one meetup every month to talk about Bitcoin and everything cypherpunk. Then we do 2 workshops per month as well. And then we randomly just meet when somebody wants to say something. We're on a Telegram group and we say, who's up for some drinks? And then we meet randomly like that. So it's like around 7 to 8 events per month in Barcelona.
Wow, nice. Yeah, I'm from Chattanooga, Tennessee, where I run the Bitcoin.
We forgot to introduce ourselves. I'm Prem. What's your name?
Oh, I'm Jordi. Hi.
I'm Jason. Yeah, and I run the Bitcoin Chat meetup group. It's a monthly meetup group in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and Bitcoin only, of course, and been doing that for the last 3 years. I also work with Jordi at Satlantis, where I work with all the ambassadors, all the people who are in charge of each of the different cities. And yeah, that's, oh yeah, and then of course 21 questions like I mentioned before, but we're not going to talk about that today.
Yeah, I'm Kim. I'm member of the 21 community in Germany. And 21 means 21. And I realized this morning that I had the wrong shirt. I have a 21 shirt, a 21 shirt at home, which I should have worn today. But I realized this morning when I had a conversation with someone who is struggling to bootstrap a Bitcoin community in a country, and she was somehow disappointed how it works. And I think from a certain point of view, we really have a very, very successful community and meetup structure in Germany, and I want to share how that worked. And I also think that it's not something which is applicable to everywhere, but it might also be something which in its current stage, we have about 140 meetups in Germany, and we have even a JSON structure on some GitHub. We have a web page there. We are searchable on a machine based way, so we have a big JSON file where you can see Telegram groups and where it's located and things like that. And that might come to some benefit later. We see that with, but let's do that later then.
Yeah, because I think when it comes to doing a Bitcoin meetup, you have an issue of organizing, setting it up, committing to it, finding a place to do it, having a theme, or arranging for food or refreshments or not. But then the other aspect of it is, how do you even get people to show up? Because you can do a Bitcoin meetup, and I've probably had 2 of those 184 Bitcoin brunches that no one came to. But if I would have been discouraged by that, then I probably would have stopped, and I would have missed out on meeting so many amazing people. But the way I started was just in a Telegram group. There was a local Miami Bitcoin Telegram group, and there was a lot of altcoin going on in 2021, so I wanted to do a Bitcoin-only meetup, and so I simply said, hey, this Sunday, I'm going to get together. If anyone wants to come, I will be at this spot, and show up, and we'll do a Bitcoin brunch. And I just did it week after week after week. But
and I think that's a very good idea to start, right? So that you have some point where you have an online thing which is discoverable by people, which is somehow sending a beacon which says, hey, I'm here, I have some opinion, you can come up to me, you can talk with me, we can have a conversation, and people might then engage sooner or later, right?
Yeah, I think that one paramount thing, you've all seen that video of the one guy that's like some concert outside, and there's one guy just dancing, just going at it for a while by himself, and he's doing that for a long time, and then one other person joins him, and a few minutes later, 2 other people join them. And maybe a few seconds later, now it's 10 people. Now it's 20. Now it's like 100. Now it just takes over the whole party there. You have to be ready to be the only person who shows up for your meetup, or maybe one other person will show up.
True.
And you just gotta dance, even if it's all by yourself.
Well, you can at least make an arrangement with the second guy, because I think that the ideal. So we have at some point in time, the German community, and especially Gigi, if you know that guy in the green suite, he at some point in time reflected what went so well in the German community building up in kind of retrospective way. And he created a website which is called 21.world, where he tried to collect some kind of blueprints of how to successfully bootstrap a community. And his kind of recommendation is 2 people, because 2 people can make a conversation, 1 can't, 2 people can, right? And then there's the audience, or not. But so I would say it's not 1 guy, it's 2. Right?
And actually, yeah, the smallest meetup I ever had in Chattanooga was myself and one other person. One time, no one showed up for the first hour. It's going to be a 2-hour-long meetup. First hour, no one showed up. So I had a bunch of stickers from Bitcoin.rocks. So I was like, I'll go and walk around Chattanooga and put some of these stickers up. Just as I was starting to clean up, this other guy shows up. And he's like, sorry, I'm late. I'm like, well, no one else showed up. Well, he had a bunch of questions. He was like, hey, I'm using this one wallet. It's like multiple cryptos and stuff. And I'm using this crypto and this. Why should I be Bitcoin only? We got into a great conversation. And then it was hard to leave once that hour was up. And he kept on coming back after that and everything. So because I stuck it out, he came, and so I've never had. It's never happened where I was the only person. But I also I used Meetup.com for a while. I actually at one point put physical paper flyers up around town. It's like, hey, come to Bitcoin chat. It's at this time, this place. Had a little QR code on it where people could RSVP, and even then, in the early days, it was just one person. Every month, it was a different other person for a while. And then the halving last April, we had like 26 people show up. It was our biggest one up until then. We had steaks and a lot of other food and stuff, and it was a blast. And so just stick with it, and everything happens after that. It's worth it.
So the problem I see here is that you start doing some PR, some maybe handing flyers, starting a Telegram group. We at Barcelona Bitcoin Only, we have meetup.com, we have a Telegram group, we have a Twitter account, we have a Instagram account, we have a LinkedIn account, and we have to be all the time present in all of those networks, and all the work that we do on one network doesn't reach the people that we have on the other networks. And for whichever reason, if there is one network that decides that this is not worth it, they're not going to show it to anyone. So all the work that you're doing it times 5, times 6, times 7.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to discourage you guys. So there are other options. I recently discovered Nostr. Any Nostr knowledge people on the audience? All right, so for the ones that might not know, it is that everything you do in one client, you can bring it to the others. So it doesn't matter. There are no difficult algorithms to try to push your things down the feed or forward. You can build your own feed. So what I'm trying to say is that maybe there are tools that allow us to do the same effort, but only once, not
less effort then. 1/5 the effort, but with
but however, I would disagree a little bit, because I think Nostr is some really advanced stuff. So usually people come first to Bitcoin and then to Nostr, right? And Nostr is also not something which is that easy from a technological point of view. So if I look at early Bitcoin adoption, then people have to, there's a saying in education, you have to pick up people where they are. And for example, I've been in Paraguay last week, and several times in Paraguay, and they're using WhatsApp. So in Germany, we're using Telegram all over. That's not working in Paraguay because they're using WhatsApp. So you really have to use the technology and then the kind of communication methods which are specific and which the people are using, because otherwise you don't pick them up, right?
The issue with that is that, you know, I'm from Barcelona, I've been traveling, I've been going to different meetups in different cities and different countries. If you do not know what tools the local people are using, you lose time, like browsing on the internet, maybe ending up on Reddit, maybe somebody sent a link on a private forum, or maybe then you start browsing on Telegram and luckily you get in, or you start browsing on WhatsApp, and maybe there are other tools that I still don't know. So what I'm looking for is like a way to centralize.
Exactly. And I have to say, this is exactly what the topic panel is. Yeah. The question is whether you are somehow drilling down from up and searching. And that's awesome, because if you have a Bitcoiner who is able to find your meetup in your town, yeah, you have to somehow connect to the bigger network. But on the other hand, you somehow have to start with something which you find on the ground, because your friends are not using Nostr, right? And that's a critical part. It's not bottom up. It's not top down. It needs to be something in between.
Before we go too deep down that rabbit hole, I want to still touch a couple of things about, you know, like organizing a meetup and setting a meetup up. You know, you mentioned you had a 2-hour meetup and no one came for the first hour, and you started to get ready to go. You know, having hosted so many meetups, and I meet a lot of people who are interested in starting their own, I try to be very realistic with them. You need to set very simple, practical goals. Like, what is the goal for you doing this meetup? You know, so recently someone started a meetup in South Miami, and they're doing it every week. That's a huge commitment. Now, I do mine every week because I knew for an extended period of time I would have my Sundays free. But this person didn't necessarily think the whole thing through, so there was an occasion where they didn't show up to their own meetup because they didn't think anyone was going to go, and then a bunch of people showed up, and the host wasn't there. So you need to set real practical goals. Set a goal that you can commit to, and then do it. Commit to it. So it's really important that, you know, if you can't do once a week, then don't think about doing once a week. Do once a month, but do it every month. Like, I'm at least going to do it for 6 months. You know, you gotta set a goal like that so that you can actually fulfill it, and then give other people in the community time to adapt and to you know, I have people who've come to my brunch and said, man, I've been trying to come to this for months and months. And you know, I might joke around and be like, oh, what was stopping you? But it doesn't matter, because the fact that I keep doing it means that, well, whenever they're ready, I'm there. And they can do it. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention is that to start a new community requires existing communities. You can't start a new community from scratch. You need extant communities that you can pull from. So, you know, the Bitcoin community, now there happened to be a Bitcoin group in Miami that I could appeal to, but there are other communities. So over time, I only did this Telegram thing. I didn't want to do anything else. I didn't want to be managing 5 different social networks. I don't have time for that. I've got a day job and I've got lots of hobbies.
Or physically putting up flyers around town.
You know, but what ended up happening for me is that over time, people who came to the meetup and valued the meetup, they volunteered to make these resources. So now Bitcoin Brunch has a meetup page. We've got an Eventbrite page. I do make Orange Pill app events because that's been pretty useful more recently. But so it's important to recognize that to start a new community, you're always going to be pulling people from existing communities. And so, you know, meet people where they are. So Meetup is not Bitcoin specific. Anyone can go to meetup.com or eventbrite.com. And lots of people have come to brunch because of that, because they weren't in the Miami Telegram group, but, you know, they were in Miami from Estonia, and they Googled Miami Bitcoin, and then my meetup popped up. So I got to meet a couple from Estonia. And then, this was like 2 years ago, so then they came to El Salvador, and they did their own Bitcoin brunch here in El Salvador. And they're like, oh, that touches me. So that's what I wanted to say. Like, you know, be real practical about your goals, commit to them, and fulfill them. And then you'll be amazed what comes out of it. So now let's talk more about, like, how do we get attention, you know, because so obviously you mentioned Setlantis, and there are right now, as far as I know, there are 2 Bitcoin specific social network projects that are being, you know, produced, so one of them is Orange Pill app, and one of them is Atlantis. And they have different business models.
And one of them is 21.world.
Oh, 21.world. Oh, yeah, right. So why don't you talk a little bit more about that and how, how the 21.world is not just for one specific community, but it's actually pretty worldly.
Well, I can, if I need to explain the story in 3 minutes or so, I will try, okay? So they started with the beacon. I mean, I try to explain it in what Gigi thinks about it, how he, in retrospective, thinks that was so successful. So 2 people meet, and they made a podcast. So you constantly, every week, go and 2 people sit together. They don't have much preparation because they are creating a podcast discussing the last week from a Bitcoin point of view. There's lots of things. Fed, inflation, these kind of inflation-specific politics, the kind of technical stuff. There's so much to talk about. You are Bitcoiners, you know that, right? You go there, you have that conversation, you blow out that podcast, it's easy, and you have that kind of beacon. So people are listening to that, they are engaging, they're thinking you're talking bullshit, then they might have a Telegram chat somewhere, and then there's some discussion going on about, hey, I see that a little bit different, blah, blah, blah. And then you try to decentralize in a way that you invite the people to that podcast. Come on, yeah, let's go, let's have a conversation. You don't have to be some kind of BIP freak, or you don't have to be kind of, no, you just need to be the kind of average maxi with some weak opinion hold strong, or strong opinion hold weak, doesn't matter. Go on, have a conversation. And when you do that, you automatically get some kind of more people having in that podcast, having in that Telegram. And at some point of view, it took off so much that the people in that Telegram group said, okay, I think we should meet in real life. And then they made a conference with about 150 people. That was 4 years ago, or something like that. I think 3 years ago, no 4. And they met in real life, and they were so blasted that and they was totally astonished that they met people who are just living a couple of kilometers by side from themselves. And then the result of that conference, which was called the Bitcoin Citadele, or Bitcoin Citadel, was that in a matter of 4 months or so, about 40 to 50, 60 meetups in Germany sprung up like crazy, and they met then at that local level. And then you have all, and they had really heavy discussions about, hey, should we keep control, or can everyone in that country put up a Telegram group and make a Bitcoin? What about if they come in and do shitcoining and so on? And they decided, after heavy discussions, we trust in the people that these guys are really Bitcoiners, and they will push out the shitcoiners anyway. And the result of that was huge decentralization, huge efforts in all. They had YouTube channels, they had all sorts of stuff. And at the end, we now have a website where you can discover that stuff, and then we have Gigi, who thought about it. Hey, what happened? What the fuck happened there? And then he created 21.world. So that's, and then that sprung up over to other countries. So there's someone here from the Danish guy who made a community, which they said, okay, because language barrier is very important, right? So you just take 21 or 21 and translate it to your own language. So there are many communities which just translate the number 21 to their own language, and then you can bootstrap with that somehow your country. And then there's the world map on 21.world where you can connect you, and then you can do whatever you like. You can use your own directory, GitHub, or maybe Atlantis. I don't know. Yeah, but that's now the challenge from a top-down perspective. That you see, okay, how can we connect that if anyone is traveling from anywhere to anyone else to meet Bitcoiners, or the other way around, like how do you bootstrap your own? That's a huge kind of topic here on the
Let me just interject one little thing. So a big topic of discussion, since the title of this panel is top-down versus bottom-up, meetup.com, you have to pay to have your events on this site. So I never paid because someone offered it for me. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. But the prices have gone up recently. So a lot of I'm in various meetup groups, Telegram, Signal, lots of places. A lot of big meetup organizers are saying, well, we don't want to pay for this anymore. You know, we don't necessarily get a lot of value from it. And we don't want to keep committing to this, you know, inflating product. So, you know, here we have this centralized platform, this top-down situation that's being controlled by individuals like the bottom-up, and we're assessing, is this really the way we want to go? And we're looking for alternatives. So I think it is then worthwhile to discuss, like, well, what is Satlantis, and what does that do?
Right. So, yeah, I mean, the introduction that Kim just made, explaining this bottom-up approach, is amazing. This is what we plebs are doing, right? It's like, we see a necessity, and let's do a meetup, and we meet one-on-one. Then it's 3, then it's 4. And the topic I introduced before is that that's fine as long as you know the community. But for travelers, and most of our are nomading or maybe are discovering new cities and new places, we want to reach out to these people before we arrive there. We want to get a sense of belonging before arriving there. And unless you know the 21 world or the 21.world, you spend time there. So what we're trying to do at Satlantis is like creating this social network on top of Nostr, and this is another topic that maybe we can discuss tomorrow at Nostr booth or Sunday at Bitcoin Mansion. You're all invited. But the technology itself, it's not that important now, but the idea of having a single place that is not known, it's not owned by anyone, but it organizes, it's like a directory. It organizes all the information that maybe in Germany is through this website, maybe in Chatonga is through a meetup group. And the idea is that using Nostr, and I don't want to dig deeper into that, but using the so-called social graph, you can get to meet people like you, like-minded people, before you even know what your interests are. You just log in Nostr and you say, I'm interested. Maybe you are not a Bitcoiner yet. Maybe you just know that you are worried about something's not going on. Then because of that, you find people. So what we're trying to do is like to organize all the events that are going everywhere in the world, put them into a map, put it into an events map, and then you are not using our platform. So our platform is just a passage. It's a tool. It's a path to find the local places. And of course, if you don't have the money to pay meetup.com, or if you don't have the resources to build your own websites, of course we set the tools for you so you can bring them. So I don't want to do like a pitch of Satlantis. I just want to use it as an example of how we can meet people, like-minded people like us, like Bitcoiners maybe, or maybe find places that accept Bitcoin to pay for your food. And the idea, I think, that if we mix the bottom-up approach with the top-down approach, which is the only goal of I think that of all of us, is to get to know each other. So what do you think?
And I have to say that this is not the traditional product pitch, because it's more or less a kind of protocol. So I don't think about, well, I haven't used it yet, to be honest, but I have an idea of what Nostr is. I dived into
Satlantis.io. Feel free.
And I don't know your business model either, but I don't care so much.
I think they sell ads, but which is the only problem I might have with it. I would like to say, though, because I mean, I'm familiar with Satlantis and Orange Pill app. I think Satlantis is also, it's not just about meeting people, it's also about getting a sense of what information about a community a Bitcoiner might want to know. So if you're visiting Miami, for instance, the idea is that the Setlantis page for Miami would have a lot of information, not just about Bitcoiners, but about events and places and tourist attractions and things like that. So it's not just about like the people, it's also about the community and the experience. And I want to contrast that a little bit with Orange Pill app. Orange Pill app is a paid app, so it's a paid membership. So it's Bitcoiners only. They've got not a grid, but like you can scroll and see people by distance. It's in increments of 5 miles, so you're not super doxed. I've used this in various countries at this point, so I've met people in Mexico, like on a lark. So there's a utility to it. They also have an events page and a merchants page. But I think, the fact that they're charging for it is a bit of a barrier to entry. But at the same time, that kind of gives you a sense of confidence that, well, the people who are in here are very serious about Bitcoin. They're people who are willing to put their money where their mouth is. And so I'm very excited about both of these projects. In general, I'm very bullish on Bitcoin companies. I'm bearish, on Bitcoin companies. I think we just need to keep building and providing value, and then everything else will fall into place. But I'm glad that people are making the effort.
A lot of Bitcoin companies is throwing mud at the wall and seeing what sticks. And hey, when something sticks, it'll really stick around for a while. But yeah, actually, to build off of that, though, what all you were saying, and I'm a little biased because working on Setlantis and all. But so one of my favorite things about Setlantis is that there's a lot of social platforms out there that just suck you in. They suck you into just doom scrolling.
Engagement.
Exactly, engagement, rather than being a tool to help you in real life. When you use, a mapping system, Google Maps or the Waze app or something, it's helping you in real life. It's not just sucking you in and trying to get you out of real life and onto the screen. And Atlantis is a lot similar kind of thing. And frankly, so is 21.world and the Orange Pill app. They both help you. All these help you in real world ways to meet other people, because at the end of the day, that's really what this is about. Is, well, people say fix the money, fix the world. There's a long process. Fix the money, comma, wait.
No,
fix
not
the
wait.
world.
Build.
Yes.
build.
TikTok is what I meant. But yes. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of work, and then we get to enjoy the fruits of our labors. But yeah, we have to work there in the meantime.
Awesome, guys. I think that we can finish the panel. Maybe last words.
I mean, if anyone has a question, if we have time for questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, what Kim mentioned earlier about a podcast, create content. Start to build a culture. Okay, you guys know each other. You're comfortable with each other. Different people have different strengths and different talents and different passions. Start putting that to work if you want to grow your community. If you want to grow your community, you have to start doing things differently. Different opportunities, start doing educational outreach, reach out to schools. So last year, we were able to go to a STEM day, a science, technology, engineering, mathematics, at a high school. We set up a booth, and a bunch of our, I wasn't there because I worked, but a bunch of people volunteered. I'm like, hey, who wants to do this thing? So we had people in a public high school with hundreds and hundreds of high school students just wandering around, and hey, what's this? And they got to talk to them. So you have to mix things up. If you want things to change, you have to change first.
Right, and you also said developers, and that comes to my mind that people might be very technical. They are in there for a lot of time, and they are somehow they made the impression for the people of a steep learning curve, and they are afraid of placing stupid questions, which is really the worst thing you can have for getting newbies. And then on the other hand, it's not so bad in a beer market, right? And now we're in a bull market, and I'm sure you will get new people. The question is whether they stick to you or not. And then the question is like, how do you welcome them? Is it like, do I really have to answer that stupid question? Yes, you have. That's yeah.
So a podcast, a web. I think so. Again, I don't do these things because I'm too busy. But if you guys could make a website, like, do you have a website for your event? Maybe with some basic resources for newcomers, with the calendar. Have workshops. But ultimately, you got to decide what is that existing community that you want to pull from, and then how do you connect to them? There's technology communities that might be interested in Bitcoin. There are finance communities that might be interested in Bitcoin. There are, political communities that might be interested in Bitcoin. And then so, you tailor a pitch, a marketing strategy. It could be as simple as just showing up to some other meeting and say, hey, I exist and we exist and we're inviting you, if you're ever interested in Bitcoin, why don't you come and hang out with it? Now, it's work. It's work. There's no doubt it's work. I've put in more than 750 hours of my life into Bitcoin Brunch. It's work. But, that's what it takes. You want to change the world?
I like to add something like maybe we are overwhelming you with so many things to do. So I come from a business development standpoint. So the first thing you should think about is what do you want to achieve with this group? This group is an organism. It's a live organism. Now it's you and these 20, your partner and these 20 attendants. What are you going to build? Is it a developers group? Is it an education group, as Prem was saying? So what do you want to achieve? And based on that, then you find the channels and the existing communities to tap into. But don't bother about launching a website, a YouTube channel, a shorts, whatever.
Unless you want to.
So first, what do you want to achieve? You seem like you're frustrated, like you want to have more people. I had this discussion with my Barcelona Bitcoin only group as well. We are between 15 to 20 admins. It's a big group. Like every meetup is like between 80 to 100 people. And we do this just because we like to talk about Bitcoin. And we're happy. And sometimes I get in the middle with that, like I want to get massive adoption, I want more people, but this is not the goal of our group. Our group is to have fun talking about Bitcoin. Just discover what it is. Maybe talk to your attendants, to your team, to your people. And if you're not happy with that, if you're the owners of the group, it's your house, your rules. So then you change them. And then you decide what to do. But don't bother about, we are giving you all some ideas. Don't have to follow them all, but because maybe none of them work for you, for what you want to do. So first, I would recommend you to find the personality of this organism, of this live organism that you have built. And congrats for building it. It's like we all are doing this because we like it, so good job.
Yeah, when you were actually first asking your question, the first idea that came to my mind was basically splitting your meetup. Say, okay, maybe split it, like some of us come from the north of the city, some of us come from the south, and so let's split into 2 different meetups. But I was like, yeah, but that's just kind of like, well, that means you're saying goodbye to about approximately half of the group, and getting those separate groups to then expand and stuff. That comes with its own problems. But yeah, if you split, yes, split, but not, I guess, not so much following geography and number of people, but following interests and following the angle that different people want to approach. There's somebody, let's say there's somebody in there who is totally a dev and they would love to get into the deeper technical aspects of Bitcoin as well as Nostr and things like that. They understand the protocol left and right and center. Well, they may not want to educate new people. They may want to talk with other people who, about some new BIP that's been suggested and have deep conversations about that.
So that's BitDevs, right?
Yeah, I was thinking about that down in Atlanta. I live in about 2 hours north of Atlanta, and they have the BitDevs meetup, and they also have the BitPlebs meetup. BitPlebs being for just total noobs or people who don't understand the tech at all, but they love stacking sats, or they want to learn how to stack sats. But I attended one BitDevs meetup. I was like, oh yeah, I've been in Bitcoin for at the time it was 6 years or something. So yeah, this should be fine. I understood a little bit of it. There were a few words they said I knew. But then I went to a lot of BitPlebs and these are my people. And so when you have different options like that, then all the attendees can choose for themselves. Oh, this one is more Bitcoin education for newbies. This one's more technical. This one's more political. And yeah, so kind of specializing the different meetups. And yeah, they'll be smaller at first, but now they're starting to grow, and you can advertise for each other. Let's say someone comes to the super technical one and they feel really out of place. You can say, oh, don't worry, next Saturday there's the one for newbies. You can go to that one instead. And so you can help each other out that way.
Just one remark, as someone who is working 20 years in software industry, every developer who is not willing to work with new users should reconsider his job description. Just saying.
So I'm not really very interested in in no coiners and noobs. That's not really my passion. I'm willing to do it. So if someone comes to brunch and they've got questions, I'll answer them. But really, I want to be hanging out with other Bitcoiners, and I want to be learning. I want to be deepening my understanding. You kind of have to decide, again, like what I was saying earlier, who is it you want to bring in? If you've kind of maxed out at 20, and well, if there aren't, if you don't know, because like in Miami, I know that there are other Bitcoiners who aren't coming to my meetup, but that may not be the case in your situation. Maybe you're trying to get new people to come. If that's the goal, one potential idea is like maybe your group could put some money together and put an ad in a local newspaper or a local television station once a month, once a quarter, just on a lark to see, like, hey, have you heard of Bitcoin? Are you interested in Bitcoin? Well, here's this meetup. Because oftentimes the issues we were talking about before is that you need a platform. You need a place where people already exist. And it's oftentimes, in such a niche community, it's oftentimes hard to reach a widespread audience.
Do we have more questions?
I was going to have one question, but
Oh, sorry, real quick. Does that answer your question? Wonderful.
Okay, we are time to close. The one question I did have...
Before we close...
I know, I have one question. But I did have one thing to say to you too, is, are you having your events always at the same place? Because if you were changing your events each time, because then you are going to create a FOMO, what are these guys doing here? And then the people who you've got the event you've gone to, or the pub or whatever cafe might go, we really like the look of that, and come along for the next one. Could be an option. But my question is, when it comes to your meetups, do you do educational things, or is it always just a social gathering?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Like I deliberately named mine Bitcoin Chat. Firstly, it's chat with 2 T's because of Chattanooga, so there's a little play on words there. I'm a dad jokes. Anyway.
+1.
Yeah. I was going to say that. Oh, yeah. But so that's one thing we do, just to keep it really accessible, non-intimidating. Like, hey, you don't need to, not going to expect a lot of things from the people who attend, unless they want to say a lot. So we're just going to chat about Bitcoin. But there have been some times where, we have done something that's more interactive, more educational. I've brought the game Huddle Up to meetups before. We haven't played it yet, but just having options like that. And let's see, a few months ago, we tried to do the this thing called Simple Proof, where we it didn't actually come together though, but we did talk to Carlinho about that, and tried to get it going. Didn't work, but he got on a video call with us and talked to all of us, and we all got pretty excited for it.
Film.simpleproof.org or comma, I don't know, but huge Simple Proof. Check it out.
As long as you communicate really well about the changes, like, hey, this time we're doing something a little different. My meetup is actually this Saturday, and I'm not going to be there, so I made that announcement. But it's still going to happen. Other people are taking over for this month. But so as long as you communicate, hey, here's what we're going to be doing this time. And I use both Twitter, Nostr, and Meetup.com, and of course Atlantis for all those kinds of things.
In Barcelona, how we do it? The first 5 minutes, explanation of who we are. Hello, we are Bitcoin Barcelona only. We talk about Bitcoin, no shitcoinery, cypherpunk ethos, blah, blah, blah. That's what we are. That's who we are. That's what we do. Then local promotion of merchants that accept Bitcoin. And then 45 minutes of educational talk. So we always invite people that are building things, so building. And after that, around half an hour, 1 hour of mingling and social and networking. And after that, for the hardcore Bitcoiners that had fun this night, we go to have dinner together.
That's awesome. No, thank you. Okay, well, I think this is it, guys. Is any other questions out there? No? All right. Thank you very much. You guys have all got lots of information, and you all love to talk. It's really awesome to see.
And we will be here tomorrow. Well, not here, but at the conference tomorrow. We have a booth. Come to the Nostr booth. Some of us will be there. And if not, Nostr Day on Sunday at Bitcoin Mansion.
Thank you very much.
No problem. All right.